Hi. Shani, you talked in your video Monday about coming to enjoy certain books or plays or poems after you've sort of been forced to study them in a school setting or, I guess, a work setting. I think there's definitely something to that. And one of the examples you talked about was Romeo and Juliet, which I took in high school, didn't like at all, took again in university when I took Introduction to Shakespeare. I still get a little confused whenever people are like, "Oh, Romeo and Juliet, so romantic." But the thing that made me like it a lot more in university was that I was taught about the social context. There were all these feuds and dueling. It was really destructive. If you know that, then Romeo and Juliet become not just like star-crossed lovers, but they're the unintended victims of this entire social order that sets people up against each other, which is pretty cool. There are other cases where learning more about a text has allowed me to appreciate it as literary work, but hasn't really made me like it more. And in this category would be The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock. I can appreciate that it's a good poem, but I don't really care. Then there's the third case, which is perfectly represented by Death of a Salesman, because in this case, I've read the thing a couple times, and I just don't see it. There's just nothing that I take away from Death of a Salesman that I didn't already have. It's possible that in some other context I might take away more if I saw it performed, but I didn't sympathize with any of the characters. I understood the themes, but I was kind of like, okay, what's your point? Stylistically, there are some interesting things going on, but if that's the only thing you've got going for you, I'd rather read something else. I think most of the time that I've experienced what you're talking about is when there's been something about the historical or social context that I've been missing. Maybe also if there's some stylistic things that I'm just not getting and those are explained. There's also a lot of texts where I don't think it's going to matter how many times I read them. I'm not going to enjoy them for whatever reason. Modernist texts for me are a good example of this. I've been taking a literary theory course this year and we've talked about a lot of these things. We've talked about how there was a reaction against the popularization of literature that really led to the modernist novel, where people said, everyone can read now, I'm going to write something that it takes effort to read. I guess I'm really a product of my time and place in that I believe that things should be accessible. I'm not opposed to something taking a lot of effort to read, but I don't think that a text being difficult all on its own is something you should aim for, or that should be a marker of quality. I guess what I'm saying is I've definitely experienced what you're talking about. But as someone who enjoys a lot of writing that's considered popular writing, like comic books, science fiction, fantasy, young adult, blah 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 blah, I have noticed in a lot of people our age who are serious about literature a reaction against some of those forms simply because they're easily understood and enjoyable. And some of those same people seem to have almost a fetish for texts that are really hard to understand that you have to reread and really work at. And I just get really frustrated with the literary canon and the things it excludes and the things it doesn't address. Yes. I kind of veered off topic from what you're talking about, Shani, but these were all things that I thought of as I was watching your video. So let me know what you think about, everything. Tell me everything down in the comments or in a video response.